Virgin Music Group, a company that is a subsidiary of Universal Music Group, has purchased Downtown Music, a company that owns CD Baby, Songtrust, and Fuga. This video is sponsored by Robinhood. Want to try your hand at trading? Make some extra money to invest in your music? Buy the dip, flip, try Robinhood. Zero trading fees, plus 1% on whatever you deposit into your account, plus 4.5% APY for gold members. Click the link in the description box for free stocks and to dive into the wonderful world of trading stocks, including cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin, XRP, whatever's your flavor. Knock yourself out. Robinhood. Check it out. Link in the description box. Peace. What's happening, good people? This gift here for Payusnomind, and let's talk about this acquisition with Universal Music Group buying up a company that owns one of the top digital distribution companies on the market in CD Baby. So again, Downtown Music owns CD Baby, which we know, we've just established, is one of the top digital distributors on the market, but then also Songtrust, which is the #1 publishing administrator on the market, and Fuga, which is the company that I would say the majority of digital distributors on the market use to facilitate digital distribution. So with this single purchase, Universal Music Group has gobbled up major market share within the indie music space. And why this is significant is you got to look at the history here. So first, let's address this. They say that there is over 120,000 songs uploaded to streaming platforms per day. That's what they say. 120,000 songs per day. So that's one thing to remember. 2, this year, Spotify stated that indie artists made up 50% of the revenue generated by the platform in 2023. So indie music gobbled up half of the revenue that Spotify paid out to rights holders in 2023. And that second number is largely due to the first number because of the fact that there's so many artists releasing so much music. Each of those songs could just do a little okay. And collectively, they would eat up major market share. And for a company like Universal Music Group, they look at that and they say, oh, just by releasing a whole bunch of music that they identify as not great music, because, you know, the head of Universal Music Group called digital distributors merchants of garbage, right? So they clearly don't think that a lot of quality is coming out of these digital distribution companies. So they look at that and they're like, well, these guys are now eating up 50% of our revenue. And you think about it from the standpoint that for the record companies, they're looking at it like, okay, well, we are the top attraction. We are, let's say you got to perform a concert. They're the headliner. They're the name that's on the marquee. They're the ones that everybody pay for a ticket to come and see. So it's like, to them, all the other artists that are on these streaming platforms are like opening acts that aren't on the bill. They're not significant names that draw a crowd. They're just there, filler, right? Like, you should be lucky to be here, effectively. So for them, they're like, why are we losing revenue to these guys? And they pressured Spotify and all the other digital service providers to adopt policies to restrict the amount of money that could be gobbled up by that indie artist sector by targeting the artists that didn't perform so well. So, you know, Spotify had the 1,000 streams within the past 12 months, and Deezer 1,000 streams by 500 listeners, and these different policies aimed at the bottom, cutting out the bottom. All of the artists that were distributing hundreds and hundreds of releases where they making a little bit of money per release and collectively they amount up to something, boom, you got rid of those guys. But that didn't do anything to address the artists at the top, right? The artists that qualified for monetization, that got the 1,000 streams and the 1,000 streams from 500 listeners. Like, that's nothing to them. So when you look at the quantity, the amount of artists distributing releases through these companies, and the fact that that's going to be a growing number, and you say, okay, let's say 10% of those artists that's distributing music through them are going to ultimately get to a point to where they qualify for monetization, then you recognize that all they did with the monetization structures that they forced on the DSPs, all they did was buy themselves time. Because inevitably, the same thing is going to happen. Those artists are going to eat up 50%, maybe more, of market share by sheer quantity. So that is where this decision comes in. You can't beat them, buy them. You know? So they step in and they buy downtown music. And now, rather than fighting against the grain and trying to have rules passed and all this other stuff, now they're in the game. Now we're all part of the same gang, right? So it's like it's no more fighting, because at the end of the day, we all split the same pie. And if anybody eats more, somebody else gets to eat less. And the record companies wasn't trying to eat less, so they were fighting to try to make sure that indie artists got a smaller slice of the pie. And now there is no more, or there isn't really like an essential need to fight to make sure that indie artists get this smaller slice of the pie, because now they get a share of that pie too, right? So it's like they get their share of the pie plus the share of the indie music pie. And they weren't the first company to try to do this. You have Warner Music Group who tried to buy Believe, but Believe was too expensive for their taste, right? They tried to buy Believe $1.6 billion. That's what Believe was worth. So by that measure, you could say, well, Universal Music Group got a bargain, because they bought downtown music for like, I think a little over $700 million. So it's like they bought downtown music and all of his properties for over 700 million or 775 or something to that effect. And Warner was going to have to pay 1.6 billion for TuneCore and all of the companies owned by Believe. Now, ultimately, what does this mean for the artists on Songtrust and the artists on CD Baby? Personally, I think it means good things, because of the fact that digital distributors, their job is to just get your music in stores. They are not capable of making the most out of the music that they distribute. Like, artists look and they say, okay, well, what can they do to help me succeed? They ain't nothing, because that's not what they do. They just get your music in stores. They're not A&Rs. They're not, music marketers. That's not what they do. But that is what record companies do. So by now having a record company step in and purchase a digital distributor, if artists experience a degree of success, you now have a partner with the resources to throw gasoline on that fire, right? And they could plug you in to playlists, editorial playlists, priority placement, feature placement, all of these different things that they have in their wheelhouse, where they could take a song that's getting a few thousand streams and turn it into 1 million streams. And they're incentivized to do it because they get a piece of the pie. Because CD Baby is not like these other digital distribution companies that allow artists to pay a one-time, or not a one-time fee, but allow these companies to pay a fee for unlimited distribution, and they don't take anything from the pie. No, CD Baby takes 9% of the revenue generated from streams and sales. So now Virgin Music Group, and because they're a subsidiary of Universal Music Group gets 9% of all of the revenue generated by the artists on CD Baby. And CD Baby takes 30% of the revenue generated by Content ID. And that also now passes through to Universal Music Group. So they have an incentive, and unlike when you just had CD Baby where there was incentive but not necessarily capability, right? Like the resources and the technological know-how in regards of utilizing the tools and stuff like that to really make anything happen with it with the releases. With Universal Music Group, you have that. You have somebody that does have the tools and the resources to really like make their 9% and their 30% worth it. So at the end of the day, you could have artists that want to like be indie to the effect of just like a psychological thing where it's like, I don't want to be under no record company. And if that's the case, then it's like, this is bad news for you. But if you're just looking at it from the standpoint of where are things going to be best for me, this is good news. Now, ultimately, for the digital distribution scene, you look at it and it's like, well, consolidation hardly is ever a good thing because it's an elimination of competition. And when you eliminate competition, then options dry up. And you don't get companies kind of like competing against each other to provide the best service or the best services at the cheapest price and stuff like that. That's how we got to $20 unlimited distribution, keep 100%, because competition, right? DistroKid came and forced everybody else to kind of adopt. So that's kind of like the downside of it. But other than that, I mean, it ain't really much of a downside. It is what it is, right? The game has changed. Bigger companies stepping in, buying up the smaller companies, and everything's changing. Now, you guys can agree to disagree, whatever the case may be. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section. If you guys want to check out some of the products and services we recommend, there's a link in the description box along with discounts to some products and services we recommend. If y'all want to check out some of the companies that I talk about, deep dive reviews, or compare any company to any other company on your own, or based on our information and research, you can go to the payusnomind.info website. It's a link to that in the description box as well. If y'all want to hit me up, you can at Payusnomind on Instagram, at Payusnomind on Twitter, payusnomind@gmail.com. This is Gift signing off. Pay us no mind. Peace, good people. One.